Good morning and welcome to AI Daily. We're here with your hot AI news for today. We got some news from Google, from a new Alexandria, and from our friends over there at NVIDIA. Let's get started with the Google AI Pact with the EU. It looks like Google and the EU are talking in the same way that OpenAI and the US government were talking. Google, not to be left behind, wants to show that they are also working with governments to regulate AI in ways that nobody is apparently willing to mention yet. Ethan, what do you think about this story? Why is it important?
Yeah, this is, just to mention the US government putting stuff out around regulation we've talked about before. We've talked about European regulation before, but Europe is, with GDPR, they've had a history here. They are really gung ho about this. Some of their leaders are saying, hey, we need to get something implemented by the end of the year. So then we have an implementation cycle of a year, and this actually starts happening now. So they're in a rush to get this done. They're looking for, the big corporate partner to kind of push this forward with them. Google is the first one who signed up. So they're calling this their AI Pact. And like you said, they have a little bit of framework we've talked about before around AI use, limiting open source use and stopping them from reaching European citizens. But they're pushing hard on this. And I think it's important for people to know that, Europe has implemented GDPR, which affected the pretty much entire internet around the world. We got beautiful cookie banners out of that. So seeing them push harder and harder day over day to get AI regulation not 5 years from now, but in the next year is what they want. It's important to know and keep an eye on.
This so far sounds like a lot of people trying to make sure that they're in the news cycle about talking about AI regulation. I couldn't find a single thing that they were discussing. It sounds like a lot of trying to get ahead of the story, which is smart. Which is smart for the EU's purposes and for Google's purposes. But it's getting kind of tired, in my humble opinion, around how much cosplay and virtue signaling we can do about AI regulation without actually doing anything. And I haven't seen a single example, whether it's the U.S. government or the EU, establishing some sort of way for the public to actually interact with this, for the public to have its say. It just seems like it's something for politicians to make it seem like they're, doing things with big tech companies and, doing lots of regulation. Where are the people? Where is open source involved in this? Where is the average EU or American citizen involved in it? Connor, what do you think?
I think many people, many companies are worried this is going to be as big of an impact, like Ethan said, as GDPR was. So I think, like Ethan said, they're really trying to get ahead of the curve. Apparently, EU is going to or is already working with other companies. Google's just the first one they've publicly talked about. But many companies are worried about this. We saw even OpenAI, we saw Sam Altman say that if OpenAI can't figure out EU regulations, they would pull out of the EU. So
Yeah, but Sam's going out there and, talking in public. He's talking on Twitter. He's doing lots and lots of talks at different conferences. He asked a group of folks at, I think in Germany, whether they think open source, GPT-5 should be open sourced right away. Most of the people raised their hands. He said, well, we're not going to do that, but it's interesting to see how many people voted for that. So, I'll say I think there's a big difference between what Sam is doing and what some of these other folks are doing. They seem to be doing a lot of virtue signaling, where he seems to be actually trying to interact with real people out in the world to discuss, what to do about this.
I think
That's my
he,
2 cents.
I think he and OpenAI know more of what they want. I think the problem with Google, the problem with the EU, the problem with Microsoft, they don't really know what they want yet. So that's why they're probably very hush hush, would be my guess.
I mean,
Yeah, I think somebody at Google said, "Hey, Sundar, we need to get some news stories about you talking to governments as well." And he's like, "Okay, let's do some let's do a AI pact, some just so that there's enough of a word around it that some news stories will cover it." What were you saying, Ethan?
well, we saw them put, we talked about this on a previous show. The EU has put out the framework that they're kind of pushing towards. They wanted to limit some of the open source access. They wanted to limit some of the more data privacy concerns and training of these models. And at least Commissioner Breton, he's been active on Twitter. He's trying to push these regulations forward. I think, as much as you both have valid concerns about, the lack of public intervention in this and how much virtue signaling goes along, which I completely agree with, they're worried about it and they're pushing towards it. And just like they did
What are
with
they worried about?
they're worried about AI risk. They're worried about
What's the risk?
I don't know. I'm not
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm saying. Like, what's
that
the risk?
there. You know,
At
we,
least,
we, we
at
see
least I can
everyone talk
understand that
about.
if Sama is saying there's risks involved, I can understand that because the guy's been building this for years. He knows
Yeah.
what's coming. For some, EU head to say there's risks involved and not be able to mention a single one of them
I
seems a little spurious.
they probably think it's the same risk that Sam himself has said about jobs, about privacy. I think the EU is just more
I don't
preventative.
think those are the risks that Sam's really talking about. I mean,
That's what he mentioned, at least jobs in front of Congress.
I think his concerns are more existential, and it's easy to say, well, my concerns are existential too. But I don't think any of these people could be pushed to actually explain what any of those existential risks are. I bet you Sam could.
Possibly. I don't think it matters at the end of the day. I think they're trying to get ahead of the curve. We saw what happened with the internet with Cambridge Analytica and how much happens when you don't talk about this stuff at all until you know exactly what the risks are, know exactly what to say, and know exactly what to do. So you can't just wait till that stuff happens. You got to get ahead of the curve, and that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not buying it from the EU. Good luck, guys over there.
A real American.
Yeah, that's right. Go America. If you don't like it, go to the EU. Let's go on to our next story. The entirety of Alexandria is being rebirthed. This project is trying to embed the entire internet. It's super cool. Ethan, can you tell us a little bit about what it is and why you think it's important?
Yeah, it's super cool. So this comes out of Microcosm, which is, they're kind of a new collective. Some amazing engineers are part of it. And they've put together Alexandria, which what they've done is take all of Archive's research papers. What they're only doing is the titles and the abstracts right now, but they're embedding all of these. So improving, if you've ever used Archive and you're trying to search up, hey, how do I do distributed computing? You're going to get not the results you're looking for. So this move towards embedding, some people call it the semantic web. How can we improve collaboration? How can we improve search? And seeing this like open collective, it's open source code. You can download the models right now. So they're putting together an open collective to take all of Archive's research papers, take the abstracts, and make them easier to work with. And I
Does
think
it stay updated though?
I'm not sure how they're continuing to update them. I know embeddings, they talked about how embeddings are really cheap. They've done, I think, a couple million of the research papers now. So I'm not sure how often they're going to update them, but it is an easy update process. So hopefully they keep up to date with it.
Because currently, if you put ChatGPT's browsing doesn't read PDFs right now. It's kind of
Yeah.
interesting, and so it's tough for it to dig into anything on archive. And this project seems amazing and useful. I guess my question is: there's so much stuff hitting archive on a daily basis. If it's not being embedded pretty regularly, you end up back in this situation where you're searching for something, and it's like, well, sorry, we haven't read that one yet. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the big issue with, again, like you said, like search or getting high quality data is open data. Like a lot of the moats of these big companies is this data that can't be synthetically generated and that you only want the real data. And having the actual archive papers entirely embedded and whatever they're going to embed next is very nice to see.
Very cool. What else could what else do you imagine they could use this technology for other than the ones that they've kind of mentioned? I think they mentioned patents, some financial stuff. Anything else come to mind that I think it would be a cool application of this?
News they're doing as well, I think. So if you can just better embed news, you can get more up to date and kind of search for what you want, what are you trying to find out versus just, hey, what's going on in X today? You can actually answer your questions about current news. So a lot of things probably just the fact that they can create an open collective and get a lot of people working on it together, voting on what they want embedded next. You got this like decentralized movement to, semanticize the web.
Why do you think this is happening now and didn't happen already? Why is this?
Embeddings are so much cheaper now. Number one, they're a lot easier to use. You also they're using, I believe, Instructor XL, so an open source model. So cheaper embeddings, open source LLMs, both affecting this, decentralized movement to semanticize the web. Like I said, so two fundamental technologies that just weren't here last year.
Embeddings are far more useful now too, especially having these better models, especially having open source models like Llama. Embeddings are now more useful. You can search and you can embed and then you can use those. Now we have open data sets for search inside of open models. So
Why are embeddings better now? Why are they more useful now?
because I mean, before Llama, before these models, you could search and you could find these embeddings, but you would just get back the entire abstract. Now Llama has something to explain, and the embeddings have something
Better
to
vector
provide.
databases too, better infrastructure to search these things. All these pieces have been kind of coming together over the past few years.
Mhm.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, all right, let's move on to our last story. NVIDIA blowing up, their market cap going through the roof. Everybody on Twitter asking if it's not too late for them to buy NVIDIA stock. I'm going to go ahead and say NVIDIA stock is going to continue to grow. I don't think that's a controversial statement. I will say, however, that there are a lot of folks that are going to be getting into this game, and I don't think this is a one horse wins the race type of situation. So if you're going to start uh, spraying and praying your money around, you may want to save a little bit for some of the other folks. This to me smells of classic internet drives everybody crazy around some topic. Prices go through the roof of something, prices fall through the floor of something. This is the positive version of being canceled on the internet when your stock gets driven through the roof, because some people, there was some news story, and then some dudes on Reddit started pumping the price. Uh, I say, remain calm. You're not going to miss out on a 10x on the NVIDIA stock. Probably that happens over a week. NVIDIA's probably going to continue to grow, but there's going to be a lot of other players here. Ethan, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I'll definitely say first, not financial advice from any of us, but we were talking about this on that air chat channel of NVIDIA, and someone made a great comment how early days of the internet, everyone was pouring into Cisco. They had this monopoly on internet infrastructure, and everyone thought, they were the long-term winners. So you had a lot of growth priced in with something like Cisco in the early days, and I think we're seeing a repeat of that here with NVIDIA. They have a monopoly on GPUs. All AI infrastructure is pretty much either trained or ran on NVIDIA hardware. And I think people see this, what is a clear monopoly and a clear winner in this space and are pouring in. So, how will it go long term? I think likely like Cisco, but we'll see.
Little reflexivity may occur here. We'll see. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I think of course NVIDIA does definitely have a bit of a monopoly on GPUs here, but as we saw with Meta, as we saw with Edge to AI, we're definitely going to see more custom ASIC boards, more custom boards that work for these models that we don't need these general purpose GPUs anymore. And even GPUs themselves, definitely going to see more of other companies as they become far more useful for AI and AI inference. Apple, Google, they're running these models on devices. So I agree. I think NVIDIA will definitely do very well in the future and will continue to, but maybe not as well as many people think. So,
Processors are eating the world. I don't think that's stopping anytime in our lifetimes. Maybe not for the rest of the entirety of humanity. So we'll see
Absolutely.
how this all plays out. Well, fantastic! 3 great stories today. Let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing out in the world. I saw this cool example of a tool that you can plug into your CI if you're a dev shop, if you're an engineer. You can also give it some rules around how to evaluate your code, and it'll use an LLM to help evaluate your code, run some tests for you. And what was really cool about it, it seems to just plug right into your CI, plug right into your continuous integration, so that it's nice and easy and not a lot of extra work for folks. I don't know if either of you had a chance to take a look at that or what you guys thought.
No, I hadn't. I saw you had sent it over, checked it out a bit. These tools that embed in like code workflows, I've always liked. They're instead of this copilot that devs use, they're kind of this agent that exists within your code base, within your company, like automatically doing CI, automatically doing documentation. So I love these types of angles. I didn't get to look at this tool too much, but yeah, very cool.
mm. Yeah, it's nice to have something that can directly influence on your changes, directly look at your commits, and be a bit of a fail proof for when your devs mess up.
They had some concerns about the pricing, though. They're like, be careful with how you use this thing. The costs could get out of hand pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
it'll be cooler to see once the costs of these things come down as well. They'll just be everywhere. What are you guys seeing?
Connor.
Uh, I saw Diagram. Diagram launched their new site and had a big emphasis on their UI AI, where they're essentially making AI models that are completely centered around UI. Figma, of course, is an amazing place to build and prototype UIs, but Diagram tools are making it far quicker to make these things. And one of the models they have is making glyphs. So you say, hey, I want an image of a guy drinking a water, and it makes a perfect little icon for you. Or they're having AI to make the layers of your Figma prototypes and the text or anything really. And it's nice to see that prototyping is just going to get easier, especially with the Figma. So,
I haven't had a chance to try, but it looks like it connects into plugs into Figma directly.
Yep.
Uh,
Direct Figma plugin.
I was playing with Photoshop's beta generative fill yesterday, and it's really cool. I tweeted about it. Like I gave it a little picture. I asked it to sort of expand the picture out, and the degree to which it was exactly what you would expect was freakish. I was almost my head was spinning a bit around it, being like, how did it generate that part? It's such exactly what you would want to see. Totally mind blowing over there. Ethan, what are you seeing?
Yeah, super cool on that. I love, a more aesthetic world people can use easier. But I saw Spellbook. They're another kind of AI for lawyers. They raised a healthy seed round a bit ago. So excited for them. I love the plays on these kind of vertical LMs. How do you integrate in a doctor's workflow, a lawyer's workflow? So the more people working on that, I think the better. And it was cool to see.
Is it available? Can you use it? Do you know?
I don't think so yet. I'm not sure. I'm not a lawyer, so I haven't
They
dove into
just
it. But
there
I
seem
like
like there are a lot of these lawyer ones. It'll be interesting to see
yeah.
which ones win out. Again, it may not be a winner take all type thing.
Yeah, it's a B2B SaaS world. So
Will also be interesting to see is, we're going to have the same problems of legacy software and legacy solutions that haunt the world today will probably haunt the world with AI as well. So,
yes.
5 years down the road, there'll be a whole new wave of AI companies because of the ones that have been around for 5 years were built on previous AI, and their infrastructure is not made to easily use the new super intelligent AIs. And we'll see another wave of, AI lawyers until we've all been sued to death.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the future. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next episode of AI Daily.
Thank you guys.